Well, yesterday afternoon, my phone dinged me to let me know that I had a text message. It was mostly indecipherable, a series of sort of seemingly random letters and numbers. But what was clear in the message, what's always clear when I receive these messages, is the sentence, voicemail received. Visit this link before it is automatically deleted. If that sounds very familiar to you, then welcome to the Flubot Club. Phones across Australia, indeed around the world apparently, have been lighting up with these strange messages at all hours of the day and night for weeks now. And if you suspected there was something not quite right about them, then you're spot on. You're very clever. Mathew Dickerson is a very clever man. He's a technologist based in Dubbo. Morning, Mathew.
Good morning, Ewan. Thank you for the introduction.
That's all right. I was laughing this morning because we've actually got one of these text messages on our ABC text message line this morning saying that we've got a missed text. They're everywhere at the moment.
They are, and they've only just come to Australia. They've been in Europe for probably about April. I started hearing about them over in Europe, and the code has just been changed for these messages where it's now added the +61 code for Australian phone numbers. Hence is the reason we're starting to see them, and you're right, they've exploded over the last few weeks here in Australia, but they are fairly well known across the world in different areas. Different countries are targeted one at a time. And one of the things that's interesting with a text messaging process like this is that we as humans trust text messages much more than we trusted emails. So when we've seen those phishing emails, we've kind of got to the point where we know we didn't really have a rich aunt in the UK who left us millions of pounds. We didn't win a lottery somewhere in Nigeria. So we've kind of got the hang of that. And for scammers that are trying to get money out of us, they can send lots of emails for free. So there's not a big issue in using lots of email and hopefully getting one or two hits out of that. They haven't used text messages because text messages cost money if they're going to do it on bulk. But now they've come up with systems like this one, Ewan, where they're not using their system, they're using your phone or someone else's phone to actually send those text messages on. And that's what happens if you get infected. Your phone is then used to keep sending those messages on.
Right, so it acts like an actual human virus in some ways. It gets into your phone. If you let it into your phone, it will go through your contacts and then send out the message to everyone using your credit.
It does both of those. It actually uses the contacts that you've got on your phone, so it goes out and starts to target all your friends, but it also does a random number generation. The reason you've probably got one on your text line this morning is because it was just a random number that was generated. It put the +61 in front and then bang, away it goes. So it doesn't take long before essentially they get every phone number in a country. They believe that every phone number in Spain has been hit with this because it's been going for a while now and generated through all those random numbers and real numbers that it's basically scraped off people's phones as it's been infected. What is interesting, Ewan, is it only attacks Android phones. And it's a couple of things there, and you're quite right. If you're sensible about it, you're probably not going to be infected. You see that message, you see some spelling errors, you think, that's not how my voicemails come. I wonder why that's happening. In Europe, interestingly enough, it targeted on parcel. So you would get the message from a FedEx or a DHL and say there's a parcel waiting, click on this link to get your parcel. In Australia, it seems to be more focusing on voicemails. Not sure why. There's obviously some psychology the scammers are using there. But basically, you click on the link, and then you've got to go a step further. Once you click on that link, it then says, install this app so you can listen to your voicemail. And that should be the real red flag for anyone going, wait up, do I really need to install an app to listen to my voicemail? Normally I might just dial 101. What's going on here? But some people do click on that link, install the app, and once they've installed the app, what they've actually done is installed the malware, and then it starts scraping your address book. It also does some things where it does an overlay. So it might do an overlay over your banking app, for example. You go into your banking app, you type in your details, and the overlay just basically siphons those details off. And that's the end game for the scammers. They don't really care about sending millions of text messages. That doesn't really gain them anything. But if they can get people's details, banking details, other credentials, other passwords on your phone, then it can start to actually scrape some money out of your account.
How clever must the scammers be to run something like this? Is this likely to be, a couple of young kids in their mum's basement, or is this likely to be something far more complicated and sophisticated than that?
It is very sophisticated, and you're right, Ewan, they are clever. I hate to use the word clever because they're just using their talents for evil, but this is a sophisticated process. There are people who get up in the morning, put their suit on, and off they go to their job with a scammer, and they have highly paid programmers who go through and come up with all sorts of things to try and take money off people illegally illegitimately, trick people, all the rest of it. So it is a business for them, and they go through and do it. The reason you talked about that jumble of letters in the intro, the reason they do that, and there's lots of spelling errors, and you think, oh, surely they could get the spelling right. How hard would that be? But they do that deliberately because it's much harder then for a telco to block every message that's coming through if they're all a little bit different, if they're spelled a little bit differently. They can't block a certain number because some of the messages are coming from your phone number. So you don't want all your messages blocked via your telco, so it can't just go and block individual phone numbers, otherwise it would block everyone's. So it's very clever in what they're doing and the way they're going about it. The idea obviously is to get around as many of those checks and balances as telcos have in place.
You mentioned that they only really target Android phones. I've got an iPhone and I get perhaps one or two of these messages a day, have for a couple of weeks now. But so I'm safe if I click on it?
Well, again, be careful of that. Yes, you are safe from this one if you click on it. The particular way this one works is it actually uses an Android application. So when you click on the link and say, yeah, sure, put that app on there, it's an Android app. There will be nothing stopping them trying to go out and use an iPhone app. Now, iPhone's got some other checks and balances in place, but nothing is impossible to get around you, and there are so many ways that they're trying to target. This particular one targets Android phones. You can still get the messages if you're an iPhone user, but you won't be infected with this if you are an iPhone user. But again, just you have to be careful. It doesn't matter what you're using. It doesn't matter if you're using a flip phone or you're using an iPhone, an Android phone, whatever you're using, you really just have to apply that huge dosage of common sense to things and say, does this sound right? Does that look right? Or is this how I normally get my messages? If you're not sure, if you think, hey, I am waiting for a parcel and I've got a message there about a parcel, go to the actual company's website. So if it's DHL, if it's FedEx, it's Star Trek, whoever, go to their website and then log in through that process. Don't just trust a link that comes through.
And just to clarify, is it clear to you or to the authorities yet exactly what this particular scam is after? Because it's not actually asking for money, is it? So that, that's kind of been one of the things that always sets off alarms in most people's brains if it's asking for money or talking about money. But this one's not. It seems to just want to install something on our phone and then send out an inordinate number of other text messages. What's it actually doing that could be a risk? Yeah,
so you're right. The red flag now is, hey, give us some money, pay this $2 or whatever it might be. So people are awake up to that now. So the next level they've gone to now is by doing this, infecting people's phones. It then starts to send all those details off to another server somewhere. So it can try and basically scrape your banking details. It also does an overlay in text messages. So if you had a message come from your bank, a two-factor authentication message to say, hey, Ewan, you're logging in, here's your password. Now we've just sent a text message to your phone to make sure it really is you. That text message also goes off to the scammers so they can then type in your password, your code from that text message, and then they're into your bank account. Ultimately, all of these scams, I haven't seen anything different. I've always seen them trying to get money as the end game. How they go about getting money is different with lots of these different scams, but the end game is usually trying to get money from you that they don't need to have or they don't deserve to have.
Yeah, and just finally this morning, Matthew, if I've accidentally clicked on it, I've got an Android phone, I've downloaded the app because I just didn't realise that it was a scam. Is it fixable?
Panic, first of all, is the best option. But it is fixable. There's a couple of ways to fix it. You can go and get some antivirus software that you actually can put on your phone to get rid of it. And that's a bit of a risky one because you make sure that you go and get something that's legitimate antivirus software, because there are some scammers out there that what they do is they set themselves up as antivirus programs. So you've got to be really careful with that one. The safest way to do it is to completely wipe your phone. But of course, then you lose all your contacts, all your photos, all the rest of it. So it's not an easy way to go about it. But whatever you do, if you go and use an antivirus software, if you do a complete reset of your phone, then what I recommend is go and change passwords of your important apps, the banking apps, those type of things, so that then if they have been compromised, then they're changed. Don't change those passwords while you suspect you still might have the virus on your phone, because all you're doing is sending those passwords, those new passwords, to the scammers. So use some antivirus software or completely reset your phone and then change the passwords.
See, I told you were a wise man. Mathew Dickerson, great to talk to you this morning. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Ewan.
Mathew Dickerson is a Dubbo-based technologist this morning on just the...